Now,
what's happened then?
this is a toy splurge has happened, and some of these could be pretty valuable because we know that stuff from our childhood might be worth a pretty penny. But take a look at this, because Star Wars prototype action figure from 1979 just become the most expensive ever to be sold at auction. See, it doesn't look like much, does it? But how much do you think it was worth?
But if you know what it is, Ben, because it is, in fact, a plastic rocket-firing Boba Fett, one of only 30 known to exist today, and it fetched a world record of £1 million. £1
million for that. I don't think these are worth £1 million. We should say security would probably be here if they were. But we can talk now to Joe Hand, who's the owner of a vintage toy shop. Joe, morning to you. And also with us, antiques expert Angus Ashworth. Joe, let me start with you because, you know, we're looking there at that. Why is that figure worth £1 million, do you think?
Can I be honest? I don't think it is. I just think it's ridiculous. But I do regret turning one down for about £700 about 15, 20 years ago.
No. That's the real story.
However,
what happened?
Well, a strange little man came to my little market stall back in the day, and he offered me this sort of figure, and I couldn't afford it. I wanted it, but I couldn't afford it. And there was no way. At that point, I mean, 30 in the world, it's good, but there are toys that are a lot rarer, that are a lot cheaper. And if you want a Boba Fett, if you must have one, I've got one here. There we go. It looks exactly the same as that one, but his rocket doesn't fire. This is a graded example, because people do this crazy thing these days of putting them in plastic, which is not, to be honest with you, I'd rather get it out and play with it. But this one, if you want one of these ungraded, it's going to cost you about £75, £80. A nice graded one like this will cost you a bit more, maybe 200 if you want to really push it. But yeah, so they don't have to be expensive, vintage toys. That's the key. And toys should always be fun. So, and you know, £1 million isn't fun, is it?
And just to explain briefly, what made that other one so special? It was to do with the way that it fired, right?
Yeah, so there's two different slots on the back of the rocket. This is really geeky, a bit train spottery now. But the way the rocket fires, there's two different slots, an L slot and a J slot. And there's two different versions of it, and they're both hideously rare and expensive. And they were sent away basically because a child choked to death on a similar toy. Essentially, they pulled that off the back and essentially replaced it with the rocket that's stuck in. So if you look on the back of the figures, actually, you'll see faintly there's a little groove where it would have been, where the little mark would have been, where they filled it in. So, yeah, that's why it's so rare. It's just that rocket firing.
Joe, stay with us. Angus, your day job is to auction, I imagine.
Absolutely. We
like
do a
this.
range of toy sales, and the toy market's and toys and models are incredibly popular. You know, there's great nostalgia there. It's a huge market. Sadly, no Boba Fett's with the J slot.
No. And would you say it's worth £1 million?
Well, ultimately, something's only worth what two people are willing to pay for it. At auction, you've got to have two people that bid on it. So, yeah, the sky's the limit. Is it, if you've got that sort of money and this is your absolute passion and that's the one piece that you want to have in your collection that no one else will have, you know, depends how deep your pocket is.
So
this one looks a bit dusty. Is this valuable because it's dusty?
Dust adds a bit of character. These ones we just grabbed out of from the last toy sale. But, yeah, these are more modern. Obviously, the one that sold was the original Kenner. But we'll see ones by other companies as you move through. And, of course, they're still being produced today. But a lot of it's nostalgia as well. You know, people buy what was cool when you were a teenager. Generally, when you're in your late 40s, 50s, you get some disposable income. Children have left the nest, you buy back what was cool when you were a teenager, whether that's a classic car or whether it's the toys. So that often drives... So we're seeing things from the 80s now being hugely desirable and collectible.
Joe, what is it about Star Wars that makes it, like Star Wars figures, that make them so collectible?
I think it was a real high-quality toy when it came out. It was a really, really good toy, first of all. And the films captured everyone's imagination, and still to this day, it's probably our biggest selling toy line. I've moved on a bit from it now because I started out in Star Wars. It's like a gateway drug, I think, Star Wars. People get into it, you know, because it's fun, and then they move on to other things. And as you'll see behind me, it does get a bit out of hand at times. You end up with not really careful. You end up with a shot full. But yeah, Star Wars is the entranceway into toy collecting, and it doesn't always have to be. And that's what I suppose I really want to stress. It's not all mega money. I think there's a lot more fun to be had. But you can go around a toy fair or into a toy shop with £20-30 and buy something that's going to bring you equally as much joy as probably that 1.1 million it was rocket firing Boba Fett.
And Angus, that's the point, isn't it? It's about, toys are supposed to be about joy. They're not supposed to stay in boxes, on a shelf. Absolutely. They're supposed to be played with. Yeah. But, if people are kind of worried about, buying it with a view to it being valuable, that's not the point, is it?
No, we all buy toys to play with them, and that's why usually when ones are pristine in their box, they're worth more, because they're all played with. I mean, that's the purpose of them. And I think you're absolutely right. There's a joy in having them, and, toys should be used, and but just be a bit careful with some of the rare ones.
Yeah, I'm going to put this one down.
You're fine.
Am I all right?
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
And Joe, what is the next thing that we should be collecting? If you've got like an old dusty toy cupboard, there was toys in that no one's played with for quite a while, what's the next trend, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, people use these horrible buzzwords like investment collectibles, which is a really sort of horrible way to say, it's just toys, it should always be fun. So I guess that's it. So buy with your heart. If you love it and you really think, oh, this is so cool, then buy it, because the chances are in future years somebody else will go, I think that's really cool as well, and want to spend their hard-earned cash on it. But for me, I just buy what I like, because that's what it should be about. If it excites me, if it makes me feel nostalgic and warm and gooey inside, then then that's going to be sitting on my shelf or in my shop.
Joe, Angus, Ben is completely distracted by whatever toys just found. Thank you both very much indeed.
Nice to see you both.
That's not for now, that's for later.
Can I open it?
No.
Why not?
Not till Christmas. Oh, dear.
Put it back then. Bye.
I think you need to check that all of these go back with you, because I'm not sure they will.
Busted. While I play with these, let's get the news of travel and the weather where you are, Susie.